Hey guys, so today I'm here with Joe,
Hi.
and we're going to be asking questions to better understand sleep. So Joe, do you have any questions for me before we get started?
No, let's go.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so the first question is, do you need to prove things to yourself or to others when you tell yourself you can't do it, or if other people say you can't do it?
I want to say both. This is one of those things where I've been self-analyzing since it started like 2 months ago, and you start off thinking you're one thing, and then you start to see everything else that you can literally do everything. And then you start trying to ask about your human need. Where did I get hit the worst? And then I see myself getting hit in three or four different human needs, and it's like, well, that didn't help. But like with this specific one, I mean, do I push on myself or do I need others to push on me? Is that the gist?
Just like when you're doing something, do you need to just prove it to other people, or you just yeah, if you need to prove it to yourself, like if you're able to do something, like which matters more?
I would guess from self-analyst that I have to prove it to myself. I'm always talking about how I'm not good enough at this yet to do it. I'm not good enough of a pianist to go out there and perform. Like I'm not good enough of a juggler to go work at a yacht. I'm just not good enough yet. So I would need to keep working. Problem is I'm not working. I'm not working on any of those really. I'm not working on performance. I'm working on teaching. So I'm not getting better as an actual performer. I'm getting better as a teacher. That's what I train for every week. And then as far as needing, I mean, I there in other areas, and I can't be specific on this, but I have to basically get my wife's permission, so to speak. I don't want to do this major thing without talking to my wife first. And I can't say how much it's just me and my wife versus me and the tribe. It's very big with me and my wife though. I don't want to do anything without her knowing and putting her 2 cents in. Um, just anything around the house, anything big that needs deciding, but anything small too. Often I'll have to just like call her at work, say, "Hey, what do you think about this?" Before I feel permission to do it. Okay, I ramble a lot and I forget the question a lot. So where are
Yeah.
we
No,
at?
that's fine. Just like with your wife, what things do you what are the topics or the generalities that you're kind of getting your advice or feedback on? Like, what are those things?
Well, I suck at house maintenance. So anything that is involving house maintenance, I'll be asking her what I should be doing. And I'll have an idea of what I'm supposed to do from either YouTube or from my experience, but I'll want to call her first before I actually do it. Car maintenance, house maintenance, pool maintenance, backyard, front yard. Hey, what do you need me to do in this place? And then I'll do whatever if she has a list of things. Like I love nagging from her. She doesn't like to nag because she feels like people hate it. But if she doesn't nag, I don't know what the fuck to do. I have to look around and figure it out, and that's this thing that I'm not responsible for, right? It's I'm not sure I'm answering the question right.
No,
You
it's
know,
fine.
sliding into different functions, but if you ask it again, I can re-hit
Yeah,
it.
yeah, no, no, it's all good. So I'm kind of curious, like, as far as like outsourcing certain things to your wife, do you tend to like with things around the house or like in your environment, do you tend to tune out from your environment really easily and you don't really pay attention to things that's going on around you, or how's that work?
150% tuned out of everything. I don't know what's going on around me. But I also have been. That's the one thing I've really been focusing in on because that's like the NISE coin a lot is what Dave is always talking about. But for me, it doesn't appear to be that. It appears to be my T. Like I appear to be in my head just thinking on puzzles. But I feel disconnected from my T. Like I feel like my T is limited. So I'm currently on the theory that, and I shouldn't be trying to help y'all. Sorry, this is just what's in my head right now. But I'm currently on the theory that it's TE, where you can't go more than 3 layers deep, just because you're more of a spectrum. So I've been analyzing the idea that I might be TE, but the whole point is I'm stuck in my head on T, and then I can only go so deep. So I'm on the internet watching videos of Dave to get me deeper, to figure out what exactly is going on with this puzzle that I'm working on. That's what it appears to be. I can't say for sure though, and it's that whole thing where it's either too big or too little. I can't see it, but I'm definitely in my freaking head. My kids will be on their iPad for hours and I won't even notice it because I was just in my head. I'll be not paying attention and not know that the pool's overflowing and now the whole neighborhood's flooded. I'll be in my head, and yeah, some of it is trance. Some of this is like hypnosis shit. Like you just go into state. Like when you're, I don't know if I can describe this properly, but if you're practicing the piano and you go for hours and the time just disappears on you, it's just gone. You're like, I was only here for 10 minutes, but it's been an hour and a half. That, from my understanding, is a trance state where I just was so focused on this one thing that I just shifted states. And you get that with autopilot in the car. You get it with, I've been just all over the place. You just go into trances, folding laundry. I feel like some of it is trance state. I just keep going into trance states with whatever I'm doing. So I get hyper focused on whatever I'm doing and then just snap out of time. And then when I come back, all this shit has just gone to hell around me. or my wife is over there pissed because I'm not paying attention to her and I just didn't realize. Or I've just been sitting at the table studying whatever for 3 hours, and now I've got 10 minutes before the student shows up and I've got to get the whole house ready. Just not paying attention to what's going on around.
So very often, like there'd be noise going on in the other room, there would be distractions or whatever that's going on around you. You won't pay attention to it, or you won't see it or feel it or hear it, or
it depends. There's like a whole part of your brain devoted to that, where if someone says your name, it'll snap you out of your state, right? And you'll just look up what. If the noise activates that, then I'll be sticking my head up saying, what the hell was that? Like, because you have kids, the whole it's too quiet thing is actually a loud noise. If it's too quiet,
yeah,
it'll grab your attention. And if there's too loud of a noise, or if your kid's screaming like the I just got hit in the head with a 2x4 scream, then you snap out of it. But most of the time that's not happening. Most of the time the kids are behaving. Most of the time everybody's fine. Everything's fine. And I'm just like snipping out of reality and going back in my head.
Okay, appreciate you sharing that. So do you feel like you get more in trouble in life from focusing too much on yourself and your own needs, or focusing too much on others and their needs?
Yeah. See, the whole problem is I've been analyzing myself for 2 months, right? I'm looking at this and seeing both sides. I would initially just say myself, my own needs. I focus on my own. I would say that from examples like so I have kids, and most people's first impulse is to feed the kids and then feed yourself. No, I don't identify with that. I'm hungry, give me the food, and then I'll feed the kids. And I do that. I do it regularly, and I don't do it on purpose. And I've started since I met my wife, who is, I'm going to say 99% chance FE masculine, who this is her life. This is how she functions. Since I've watched her and learned from her, I've been paying more attention to it. But just on my own, if I see you, like my father-in-law was working on the swing set out there, and I had zero impulse to get up and help him. One, because I suck at building things, and two, because it just doesn't occur to me to go help him. But my wife nudges me and says, hey, you should probably go help him with that. And I'm like, oh yeah, you're right, I should go do that. And I get up and go do it. So my natural instinct seems to be I would get in trouble more from just looking after myself. But again, I mean, it always comes back to the tribe, right? Like even DEI is doing their DI for the tribe at the end. So it's like, I want you guys to follow me. I wouldn't say I'm at that stage. I wouldn't say that I'm DI. Like I don't know these things for sure. That's just how my wife would describe me, and just from examples of what I do.
Okay, cool. And would you say that your interests are kind of, because you're talking a little bit earlier about like you dive into like one thing for a long time, you look to kind of seek mastery within that thing in a sense. So you wouldn't say that you have interests across a wide spectrum, like surface level interests, but you have a couple very narrow and deep interests? what does that kind of look like for you?
Well, this has a lot to do with age. How long have I been on Earth? How many things have I had time to dive into? So every few years, I find something new to dive into. And the question is, how long is a few years? Like, is it any for me to go to a new concept after 3 years? That doesn't seem right. I don't know. Maybe it is, because I have a list. I read it out on a video that I made. Let's see. Let's pull it up for you. Give me a second. So this is my list of tidal waves. It's like 2 pages long.
Uh,
I think it's at the bottom here. Okay, so I list a lot of them in the video, but this is a list that I made since then. And my wife added on board games, so I should say that before I forget. But foosball, sign language, French, chess, Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, the mobile game, personality typing, origami, piano, Korean language, Korean letters, really. I never got too deep in the language. That one's not deep. StarCraft, I got pretty deep. Flute, book writing, Rubik's Cube, Taekwondo, UFC, juggling, Wheel of Time. I read that book 5 times. I read that series 5 times. Excel macros. I would just say Excel itself. And then Bible quizzing, which I can elaborate on. And then Chinese food cooking. And that's the list of the ones that I can remember. And if there's anything that I would say that I know for sure, it's that I have feminine S, and that I have forgotten things off that list that I spent years of my life on. They're just gone. Gone, and I may never get them back. Unless I stumble upon them. But I mean, each one of those represents years of my life for the most part. Some of them are shallow, but they're also attached. Like the Korean language is attached to StarCraft because the tournaments were held in South Korea, and that was my football. I spent 5-6 years of my life following Korean StarCraft gaming and having my own heroes over there, and they were all speaking Korean. So I just started digging into Korean letters and starting to learn some words. And then when I dropped StarCraft, I dropped Korean with it. So it's just part of, any of the shallow ones are usually part of one of the deeper ones. And it doesn't feel like it's a spread. It feels like it's one deep thing for a long time. But then I looked closer. A lot of those happened during high school. I didn't specify in this list right here, but a lot of them happened at the same time. So I did have a spread going on at the same time, just all of them going deep. So what my impression was, just looking at my own history, was that it was just one thing at a time. Turns out I was wrong. I was doing 4 or 5 things at a time. Just felt like I was going deep into one. So earlier I told you, when I'm deep into one thing and I get distracted by something else, I'll drop it. That's true. But somehow during high school, it wasn't. I don't know. So yeah, that's my answer.
okay.
I'm very unhelpful. Yes.
Very unhelpful. No, that was fine. That was good.
Okay.
Like so when you mentioned in the past, like StarCraft and those guys being like your heroes in a sense, do you kind of aspire to be like those guys as far as how good they were at this game and stuff like that? When you mentioned heroes, it kind of
yeah, because I mean that's kind of what I aim at when I game. I did Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes from 2016 until I started OPS. Well, until I started CS Joseph, actually. So probably 2-3 months ago. How long is that? 17, 3 years. And the end of that was, well, there's like lots of paywalls going on, and I was just trying to work my way around the paywalls and stay at the top of the arenas. And I was basically analyzing these attack forms, trying to figure out how to stay on top all the time, and just focusing on being the best gamer I could be. And in StarCraft, it wasn't quite like that, because I turned from a participator into a spectator. It was really just me watching them play for years. I mean, I had 1 or 2 builds that I had, and I could use it if you wanted to play a game with me. And I understood all the stuff because it's like a couch football fan, you know. I know why you failed, but I couldn't do it, kind of thing. And but whenever I do get into it, I'm aiming for the top. I'm aiming there. Never really gotten there before. I've never been at the top. Vowel quizzing was another one where I actually did work my ass off, and It was in my religious days, early high school, junior high years, and we had to memorize 500 verses and just be able to answer random questions on them against another team, where you had to beat them physically to a buzzard, like a distance. You had to cross a distance to hit the buzzard and then answer the question in 30 seconds. And it was intense. Probably the most intense thing I've ever participated in, just because the combination of the mental and physical, you had to be faster than those people. You had to get through that buzzard faster, and you had to know the information in 30 seconds. It's just that time limit puts all that tension on it. But anyway, I shot for the top and I didn't get anywhere close. I just wasn't that good. And my feminine S just killed me on bubble quizzing. I would get up there, I'd hit the buzzard, I'd get there first. I know the answer to the question when I hit the buzzard, and then pick up the microphone and boom, it's gone. Don't remember anything. It's just
Oh, really?
So that sucked. But I mean, that was just the lack of tools, because I don't know if you watch Darren Brown. Most of us seem to, where he does that memory stuff. He likes to brag. He likes to peacock his memory. He did it at the end of a couple of his shows, where he memorized an entire like train book with all the stops in this like thick book, and he memorized like the entire collection of Shakespeare's. Think of what he did. And he's listed as feminine S as well, with S as his fourth function, SE fourth. And it's amazing with that in context that he memorized the entire collection of Shakespeare. But he did it with his mental palace, with the memory palace, and I've studied that in the past and used it, and it's effective, especially if you're a visual type person. And it's which you won't be if you're FF, which he is. So I don't know. I don't know how that plays out, but it's effective for people with bad memory. I don't know about people with good memory. I'd be curious to see if they even need the palace at all to memorize thousands of things. Anyway.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm kind of curious, would you say that you have better long-term memory or short-term memory?
If you can get it in the long-term memory, it'll stick. I've been playing for at least since I was 12 years old and never forgot it. If there's a couple of verses from that Bible quizzing thing that just never went away, that I just have in my head, that are there, and I can access them instantly and usually not have any troubles at all. But it seems like if you go into that room where all the things are stored, all the long-term memory things are stored, it seems like a sparse room. There's not a whole lot in there. And then if you go to short-term memory, it feels like there's a lot there, but it disappears instantly. I have a big problem. This is the funny one for me, is if I'm in the shower and I get washed up, I'll forget if I've washed up. Like, I just have that short-term loss where it's just, did I already soap up? I don't even fucking know. I have to soap up again just to be sure. And it's not all the time. It's a random thing that happens probably about, I would say, 2-3 times a month or something like that. But it's annoying because it doesn't just happen in the shower. Like that thing where, did I already do this thing that I sat down to do? That's a weird one. That's pretty weird. And that's what I'm noticing with all this self-analysis shit, is that everything that I do well has that glass ceiling on it pretty low. And the things that I do poorly don't seem to have that glass ceiling on it. Like, I don't know if this is glass lizard syndrome or what it is, but it definitely is a problem. Like, I do things well and then I get capped, like way before I see all these other people getting capped. And it's annoying as hell. And that
You
seems
do
to be
things
one of
well and
the.
then you get capped?
What's that?
You do things well and then you feel like you get capped before other
Yeah,
people? What do you
like I
mean?
just can't seem to get better. Piano is one where I can get up to a certain level of performance, and then no matter how much I work on it or practice, I just can't get it to that next level where it's performable. And it's just because I'm playing a piece that's a little bit over where what I should be playing in front of a crowd, because I need to take those things in steps. But it's just that feeling of, I'm just not as smart as these other people. That's just like, I've got B's and C's in high school all the way through. Like, I had honorable mention rolls in elementary school, and then after that it was all B's, C's, and occasional D's in private schools, which were extra hard. But it was just, I've been trying my whole damn life. Like I never didn't try to make an A ever. It was always just that cat. And some of that was me being in my head and not doing the work that you need to do to actually get the A. Some of it was just, oh, I needed to study for that test. Shit, I don't have time to do it. I'll just cram what I can and go. And then whatever I cram is going to be gone when I sit down in front of the test because poof.
Yeah,
So it was
totally.
like, well, shit.
So when you hit those ceilings though, like how do you like what is your solution? Like when you do hit those blocks, like do you look internally to try to figure things out, or are you looking externally to like get new information and stuff to help you figure things out? Like how do you solve it? How do you go about it?
Um, it's going to depend on the problem. Some things I will usually seek out an expert. With piano, I have my expert. With OPS, we all have this expert set, and then with Rubik's Cube, I had an expert. I think I mentioned that in the first video as well. And I'll just try to mimic them, but there's still this when you're under pressure, things fall apart problem. I'm actually reading a book right now. What's the name of it? It's about learning styles, and I was fascinated with it because it says that there's 32 different kinds of learning styles instead of the 4 or 5 that we're used to. Where's my books? And what's going on right now is I have this consume blast issue, and once I read something, I can't not blast it. Where's the name of this book? The Dominance Factor. How knowing your dominant eye, ear, brain, and hand and foot can improve your learning. The idea is that you're right, left brained, and you're also right, left eyed, hand, foot, and ear. And if you go into under tension, which for me would be performance, when I go up on stage, you're going to lock into the side of your brain that you're dominant on. Dave and Shane have talked about this. I'm just finding their Q&As from way back and early, like mid 2018. They were talking about it, and they were talking about splitting the brain. They've talked about that several times, but how they expected people who were what is it? Is it ST on the? I can't remember which two are on the left. They expected those people to be right-handed, and they weren't. Well, this one is saying no, they're not. What's going to happen is you're going to get sucked into your dominant brain side, either the Gestalt or the logic side, and then that side is going to control the opposite side of your body. That's the only side of your body you really have access to. So if you're and you're right, who am I? Let's say I'm right-brained and I'm right-handed, I'm right-eyed, I'm right-eared, and I'm right-footed. Then when I get under pressure, my brain shifts to the right side of the brain, and suddenly I can't access any of my dominant side. I'm only accessing the non-dominant side, which basically puts me in this I suck at everything mode. And I identify hard with that shit. I have this serious performance anxiety where it's a couple of things coming together. I'm setting up the mentality of I'm going to mess up, and then I get on stage and I mess up. Or it's also like I'm feeling like the lack of ability to do things I can normally do when I'm under pressure in an intense way. But I do have the mental capacity to think it through. So I'm thinking that I'm logic side brain, and that I just focus in, and all I have when I'm under pressure is my logic or whatever that's up. I have to look at the picture Dave and Chan put up all the time, what's on which side. That's like the only thing I have access to. And then I just can't perform. And that's that's one of the major ceilings of my life. I go under pressure and then I just don't perform, no matter what it is. The Bible quizzing, the piano, juggling, all these things, that just fall apart. Juggling, I got lucky on that one. I went on stage for 2,000 people or so, and the guy who had the microphone asked me to do the trick that I was just working on. That was super hard, and I landed it. So I've gone the farthest in my juggling on performance-wise. But as far as breaking the glass ceiling, the only thing I know how to do is just keep pushing, and just keep practicing, just keep going harder on it, and then you do get better. Like I'm messing up, yes, still messing up on stage, but I'm messing up on pieces that are 10 times harder than the ones I used to be messing up on. I've never not messed up, but now I'm messing up things that are way harder, right? So if I go up and I perform a piece that's like mid-range on my level, then I can probably nail the thing. I've just never tried.
So you talk a lot about like performances on stage, and what attracts you to sort of doing these things and performing at a high level and all this stuff? Because it sounds like a recurring theme that you're attracted to.
This is probably the thing I'm most healthy about because I'm scared to death of it. I get super anxious about it weeks before, going all the way up until the performance is over. And when it's over, it's euphoria. It's this whole, I've had all of this tension building up for basically a month, and it's over, and just all of this energy releases, and it's like better than sex, right? It's crazy. And that's an exaggeration, but the build up, there's an intense fear going into that. And this is the one area of my life where I've gone towards my fear. Performing is just terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. Going up in front of just talking in front of people. I've noticed that I do better when it's something that I'm shaking right now, just thinking about it. My whole torso is just vibrating. But I'll do better if I feel like I know more about this than everyone around me. So juggling, that's an area where I feel way more competent. And the book talks about it. It talks about working in integrated mode versus in basically panic mode, where you're only using the one side of your brain versus both sides. And when you're not in panic mode, you are using all of your faculties, all of your dominant and non-dominant function facilities. And that's what I feel when I'm juggling. Like, I feel like I'm working just calmly. I'm not in panic mode anymore, and I can just perform. So I'm not as scared to juggle. Like, I can go up and juggle in front of any amount of people, basically because I know I'm better than everyone out there, even in a crowd of 2,000. Like, I'm better than all of you. The amount of people out there who can juggle 13 things, I don't juggle 13, I juggle 5. But the amount of people out there who can even juggle 6 is so rare. It's such a small community. It's probably about the size of our community. That community is tiny. It just takes so much fucking work. Dave and Shan talk about spending 10 years of your life to get good at this shit. If you want to juggle 10 things, you're talking about 3 decades of your life. Like, the amount of commitment it takes is ridiculous. So anyway, I forgot what we were talking about.
Yeah. What's interesting is you mentioned that you juggling on stage is like that, you being better than everyone else at doing that. Like, that was really necessary in a sense for, I guess, other people watching you, or you being at that high level and people being in awe of what you're doing or something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of curious, like, why did you mention as far as like being better than everyone else and that being important, like when you're
It
there?
just seemed to be what put my brain at ease finally, because it's not a conscious decision I can make. I can't tell my brain to fuck off. I'm just going to go up there and do this thing, and it's not a big deal. Like, nobody really cares if I mess up. I know all of this stuff. I have all of this knowledge that none of these people really care if I mess up this piano song. Most of them, 90% of them, aren't even going to know that I messed up. The 10% that I do know will not care, and I can't tell my brain that. My brain is just, and that's another fun thing, because Dave and Shan, you talk about the split brain thing. There are 2 people inside of you. One side of your brain will just completely ignore what the other side has to say. That seems to be what's going on here. But it's just the fact that I was finally able, like, my entire being was convinced, my animals, if you will, were all convinced that this is okay. I'm sufficiently DI ahead of everybody enough that I can show them the way. I can let them follow me now. And it was just a calming effect where I was able to juggle without nervousness.
Yeah, it makes sense. What's really interesting though is earlier you mentioned something around mimicking those experts or these people that you're learning from. Do you feel like that is one of your modes or your initial ways of learning something, or at a high level, is to try to mimic what the other person's doing?
Okay, so the highest level of thing that I'm learning right now would be the piano techniques that I'm learning from Dr. Rosalie, where she has her DI system set up, and she's finally put it out to the world, and she's like 80 something, or she's not, I don't know. She's older. She wrote a book. She's confident in her system. She's like, I am in juggling with this, and she put it out. And I was immediately able to tell that I couldn't just learn this it's an OPS situation. You can't just do it. You really got to go in and train on it. So I just started taking lessons from her, and just I've been taking from her for 5 years, and it's still disparagingly obvious how much further I have to go to actually obtain all this information that she has. So she is, from day one, it's just that she has all of this knowledge that I don't have. It goes back to the puzzle. It's my initial inspiration for piano was the musician on stage at church who couldn't read a note. He had no real professional training as far as classical. He was trained by some random guy who taught him how to do chords and circle of fourths and progressions and counter motion and the melody and harmony and all this crap. And he just put it together, and he had this, just within a few years, he had practiced it hard enough that he could just go up there and do it. And he just had that aptitude, and he went up and he was playing. And I was fascinated because I couldn't do it. Like I couldn't make the noises that he was making, and I just had to know, how are you doing that? So I went up and asked him, I'm repeating stuff that's in the video, I apologize. But I went up and asked him, and he gave me these 2 pieces of paper, and I basically went and devoured those pieces of paper and just started learning on my own everything from those 2 pieces of paper. I just devoured them and then started expounding on them. He was my original expert of any kind, and he was inaccessible, very much so, like David and Shannon. I couldn't just go up and ask him questions. We were, I don't know, it was a weird class system going on in that church, and he was the preacher's kid, and I was like a little white trash kid or something. I don't know what was going on there, but I would go up and ask him questions, and he liked to show me things. It was just very sparingly, and I would just eat it up. Whatever he would give me, I would eat it up, and then try to expand on it, and I didn't do very well. Like it was like I can do it. Like I have had students where I took what this guy taught me, and I was showing it to this other student, and I was trying to expand on it. And I can, at this stage where I know all the theory from college and I know all the theory from my experience, I can now see what he was doing, and I can expand on it more. But as far as if I have a skill that I have already, and there's an expert out there, I'm going to go to them with, just teach me what you know. I'm not, but then I'm picking them apart. So Rosalie tells me shit, and I'm like, but why? That doesn't mean, why would you do it? Why would you need to move your hand after you hit the key? That makes zero sense. It does not affect the sound. Why would you do that? And then she has her explanation, and I will or will not accept it, and then move to the next problem. Feels very, I don't know, it feels very TE to me. I don't know. But if it's something where I have zero skills, and it's just this new skill. So with Rubik's Cube, it was a brand new skill. I just went straight to YouTube, how you do this shit. I didn't even try. I didn't try to do it on my own at all. And they teach you about the cross at the bottom, doing the bottom layer. There was a set of instructions that came with the Rubik's Cube, and I actually learned directly from that first, and then went on to learning different ways to solve it that are faster, and then just kind of picked my favorite and never moved on from there. Like I made it to where I wanted to be. I can solve a 3x3. I'm good. Then for Christmas, my wife got me a 4x4. I learned how to do it and then didn't really ever do it after that. And since I've forgotten it. So with new things at this, I mean, with the access to YouTube that we have, it's hard for me to say what I would do if I didn't have YouTube. I probably would go to books. Thinking back on juggling, I learned how to juggle 3x3 on my own. It was fairly obvious though. There were people juggling all over the place. The pattern that you need is a basic 3-ball pattern was clear. And then from there, I got a book. I got an expert. His name was Dave Finnegan, and he was my expert. And he had a book, and I just devoured that book and learned all the tricks in the book. Yeah, building on my own ideas, I do it, but I just see myself using other people's ideas more, I suppose.
I really appreciate you sharing that. How do you feel about like sort of social etiquette? Did I say that right? Etiquette. Yeah. Yeah. How does that work in your life? How do you navigate it? How do you go about that?
This one's interesting to me because if I look back, hindsight, I'm terrible at social, but in certain situations, I'm like an expert, and if I'm with my people, I guess, then I'm completely socially free, and I can make everybody laugh. I can impress everybody. I can get them all on board with my ideas. I can basically have my way with them. But then in high school, I was the weird kid in the courtyard who was juggling during lunch. Nobody thought that was cool. And then actually, like, as far as, well, I had that feminine aspect. I'm just gonna, I would bet money on the double feminine thing here. I had that going against me in high school just from a distance. I would act feminine, and then I got approached by a couple of gay guys in high school to date, and I was not interested in that. Of course, I got approached by a girl, one, and it was, you're not Pentecostal, and I can't date outside the church. It was just that immediate, I have to follow the rules. I have a big problem. I have to follow all the damn rules, and it's infuriating. But the social aspect, like whenever I first moved here to Texas and I was hanging out with my wife's friends, my wife with her FE, freaking out of this world FE, was just constantly picking at me to keep me in line. It's like, don't do that, she won't like it. Don't do that, she won't like it. Don't act like that. Don't do that. I had never had to deal with that shit before. I had never known it could be that, what it is. All of my friends from college, I didn't have many friends in high school, but all my friends in college, I don't think any of them were FE or TE even. I don't think any of them were tribe. And we're all sitting here with our little DIs and just hanging out and happy with each other. And then I run into this family of DE and I'm married into it like an idiot. And then they are all putting me in my place. Crazy. So at that stage, I felt like a completely useless infant. I had nowhere near the FE that girl has, but I have way more FE than a lot of other people. Way more ability to please the tribe, or marketing sense. The sense of, this is what that person would like me to do, or would like to see happen, or would make this person happy. Any of that shit. It's really fairly obvious to me. Like, it doesn't feel like it certainly doesn't feel like a less than the top 4 of the stack. It feels like I can do it anytime I really put my mind to it. I just don't ever do it. I just not paying, because I'm in my head, right? I'm working on some damn puzzle and I'm not paying attention to what so-and-so wants. But if I pick my head up, oh yeah, let's go make the wife happy. That's one of my number 1 priorities in life. That's one of the biggest, and this is probably nurture versus nature, because I had that first divorce and it was one of the most traumatizing aspects of my life. And then when I got my second wife, it was what do they call it? Sudden genius syndrome. Everything in my core is aimed at making sure I don't lose this second wife, because that was the most traumatizing thing I've ever experienced. Beyond like losing a cousin to death, or being embarrassed in front of thousands of people. Like, no, the worst thing that can happen is you can lose your wife. Just don't fucking do it. So I have issues that are built on top of that, and they've come out in like years ago counseling, just where it was obvious that was my issue. I'm just trying to people please my wife, and that has the same problem that her FE has out with the tribe. You try to over please people, and it comes back and bites you.
Yeah, that makes sense. And do you ever feel like you're inauthentic though when you're sort of attending to other people's needs and what they want and stuff, even though it doesn't make sense? Or
Nah,
how do you feel? No.
nah, I don't feel inauthentic most times. I feel like myself most times. I feel like pretending is in itself authentic. It's a very DE sort of feeling, I suppose. But I don't have that, and I can say that with pretty good authority because my wife's brother has it, and they sit there and stare at each other, and my wife will tell him, "You're fake," and he'll look at her and tell her she's fake, and she's fake because she's just putting on a face to make everyone happy. This isn't really how she feels. And then he's fake because he's not trying to be a real person in the world. He's just off in his own world, and it's a weird dynamic. And I've never had to really deal with it. But watching it between them, it's easy to triangulate. No, I don't feel fake.
Okay. No, that's really interesting. And you mentioned something earlier about following the rules and stuff. How do you generally feel about following rules?
Well, it's annoying now. This was something that my mom actually brought to the surface that I was unaware of. I was that goody two shoes kid who was always following the rules, mediating people that are fighting, trying to make everybody happy, which is very effy. I was trying to make sure that everything was peaceful around me, and people would start picking on people. People would pick on my cousin Serena. This was a big deal for me. She was one of my favorite cousins, and everybody seemed to pick on her. And I just exploded one day on it, yelling at everybody, y'all are not giving her a chance. Like, this is not right. And that sense of justice, like, this isn't right. And I had to attack it. I had to actually go out and force something to happen. My mom saw what it was, identified it, took me to the beach that day, and like, we talked it out. But it's just always been there, the sense of I have to follow the rules. Oh my God, if I get a ticket, it is the end of the world. If I'm driving and I get caught, it's always in a freaking school zone where you feel like, oh shit, I could have killed a kid. I wasn't paying attention. Like, that's devastating. Even before I had kids, it was ridiculously bad, and I had mental breakdowns over getting tickets. It's just that sense of, one, I broke a rule. Two, I have to spend money I don't have. And three, I have, like, just this sense of that person thinks I'm not following the rules. Somewhere inside of me, that's unacceptable. I cannot be the person who doesn't follow the rules to other people. You are not allowed to look at me and say, you're the guy who doesn't follow the rules, because that's wrong. I am the guy that follows the rules. And if I think you're the person over there thinking that guy's like, I don't know, maybe he's in drugs or something, some breaking laws or whatever he's doing over there, then I will freak the fuck out, and I'll make an ass of myself in some way. Yeah, it's pretty bad.
People aren't following the rules, or you're not following the rules and trying to make sure you're on top of that.
See, that's a weird
Um,
one for me. I think this is one of the double decidery things. If you're not following rules, I understand why you're not following rules. I can see your motivations and follow them completely. And that's another thing. I'm not allowed to hate people. Um, from my own internal authority, I do not allow myself to hate people. And it's a weird one. The people that I hate the most, even though I'm not allowed to, are the ones who are attacking other people unjustly. So if you're being unjust, then you are on my radar. But it's even then, I can still see why you're doing it. I can see you've got a blind spot right here. You're not paying attention to this part of that person's life, and now you're judging them for that, and that's not right. And I need to maybe illuminate that for you, or protect that person from you, because something has to happen there. There's some issues in there, and I just discovered those recently. That whole thing where I don't hate people, I didn't even know that existed until about a month ago. It was one of those things. There was a Q&A on projection that they did, I don't remember, a couple of weeks ago, and I went and followed that down a rabbit hole and found this NF hippie chick who was working with projection as a counseling tool and talking this other girl through it. And I went through the counseling with that person, and it dug up this person that just is not allowed to hate people. So it dug out the person that does hate people, and I did not like him. It's like, that's the bad guy. That's my bad guy. The guy that goes out and he can just throw around his hatred of people. So that feels like a demon F. Feels like it, but who knows?
yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. So what do you tend to remember from movies?
It's another weird one. I seem to be able to cross-reference in a way that a lot of people can't. I mean, like 50% can, 50% can't. It's that something in the stack where, if someone says a word, we were just playing this game the other day where the game is you get a word and you have to sing a song connected to that word. and I did way better than I thought I would. Just songs pop in my head. Here's the thing: raised Pentecostal until college, didn't listen to any song outside of Christianity, Dr. Dobson's channels type stuff most of my life. And then I get to college and I don't really listen to music. I'm a classical pianist who doesn't listen to music. I went and took classes because I had this puzzle of how does this fucking piano work? Started figuring it out, but none of it was really musical. I wasn't trying to be a performance guy. I wasn't trying to make people cry with the piano. I wasn't trying to play songs from movies. Not really. Every once in a while because it's fun, but that wasn't my goal. And then I finally started listening to country music like towards the end of college for 2 years. I was working in the back room by myself, had a radio, listened to country music for 2 years, got really good at it, knowing the songs, and then went on from there to like just regular rock and roll stuff, classic rock, and just general music on the radio where I wasn't listening closely or anything. But anyway, here I am playing this game now, and I'm getting as much of these right as anybody else who's been listening to pop culture since they were a baby. And it fascinated me because that's weird. Same thing with movies, and it'll pop out a quote from a movie. So this weird feminine S, something's going on with the masculine in, where I can see the connections and they don't go away. But I haven't been able to figure that out because I'm actually really fascinated with that, how masculine in works. Like, how are you solid with patterns? That doesn't make much sense to me. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. So, do you have a hard time remembering names?
100%, yes. What's your name? Austin. It's right there in front of me. Okay. No, I have students, right? I have 40 students and ish, and they have parents each. They have siblings. I'm not going to know any of the siblings' names. I'm going to call all the parents mom or dad. I'm not going to even try. I'm just going to call you mom. Hey, mom. And then the students' names. If you've been my student for long enough, I know your name. But if you're under like 3 months or so, I'm pulling out my phone before your lesson, and I have my initials on the calendar. It's a public calendar, so I don't want to put everybody's full name on there, but I have the initials. And I cross-reference that with my attendance chart, who has the initials SN. And I have to look your damn name up, even though you've been my student for 3 months. I've been known to forget everything, just everything. I will forget everything. You talk about the movies. I do space out in movies, and I'll have to rewind them and then re-watch things. And I don't remember it. I went into that hypnosis zone where I will rewind 30. I think a lot of people experience this, where you're reading a book and you realize you weren't paying attention for the last 3 chapters, and you have to go back and reread those chapters. But the weird thing is, it's not familiar at all. You did read the words, but it didn't stick at all. And you're reading information that's completely new. That's weird. And the same thing happens with movies. And I'll just rewind the movie and rewatch it. And then, the original question was, what sticks out in movies? Was that the question? What was the question?
Oh, I was actually on to having a hard time.
Yeah, I know, but I'm going back because I want to answer that one. What was it?
It was, what do you tend to remember from movies? That was the previous one.
Yeah, probably my experience. The emotions, they move. And I'll be crying along because some father-daughter experience happened, and I just started crying, and that's what I'll remember.
Do you ever put yourself in the shoes of the characters in the movies and stuff?
Oh, 100%, yeah.
To feel emotions?
Most recently, we went to a children's play. This is worse than amateur. Children's play. It was a municipal thing, and they were playing Frozen. And it got to the part where Anna's trying to knock on the door, and what's her name? Elsa won't open it up. And so Anna's just like starting to cry. I bawled for what, 30 minutes over a child's play. Putting myself in her damn shoes. And as far as my own feelings, yeah, they're pretty pent. They come out when they explode. It's definitely a tidal wave. It's that whole divorce, that first divorce where I was basically in a ball at my mom's house for 2 weeks, and just emotion explosion, sort of thing. And right now I'm still feeling that anxiety from earlier from talking about performance, but it's already really died down.
So you feel like, in a sense, that you're in control of your thoughts, but you're out of control with your emotions at different times. I guess it depends on context and stuff, but as a
Oh
general.
yeah, I can't control. I can. You can. Everybody really can control their emotions. I was able to make myself cry as it was socially appropriate once. Like, just okay, I should be crying right now. Let me make myself cry. I've done that, but I did it like once. Like most of my life emotions are just, oh well, that didn't see that shit coming. Just random feeling popping up. Yeah.
Random feeling. Okay, interesting. Really appreciate you sharing that. So I'm curious, what's the purpose of figuring out what is true? Do you care about its practical use?
Whew. What's the purpose of figuring out what's true? Well, that gets into some serious existential shit right there. Because there's not a purpose for anything. The end all, we all die. We carry on, hopefully leave a legacy, but then eventually the legacy dies and the memory dies, and then you're just gone. Like Beethoven's not there, but he is in legacy. But one day he won't be. There will be no Beethoven music anywhere. In some sort of evolution of the human species, Beethoven dies. And he's still alive right now, but he'll be gone, and then we'll all be gone, and then the universe dies and turns black. It's really, this is some single observer shit right here. Okay, so the point of truth for me is the puzzle. It's just, I want to know the answer before I die. I would love to know the answer to all these questions, but I'm not going to. And am I okay with it? Yeah, I'm still working towards it. It's yeah, what is the point? What is the point? This is suicidal thoughts when you get deep into it. It's hard to really answer. Some of it doesn't have an answer. But just for me, just subjectively, what's the point? I just want to know the answer. God damn it.
Yeah, totally. Um, do things always need to make sense to you, or can you just move on if things don't make sense?
I'll get annoyed if it doesn't make sense, but I can move on. And I don't know if that's a learned behavior or if it's just part of me. But the other day, my wife was doing something with laundry and it clearly didn't make sense. And she made a comment like, "What?" And I just like had a little emotional. We didn't fight. It was just a like, this doesn't work. This doesn't fucking te work. And it was it was that this makes no sense sort of coming out as an animal. So it's there. It's part of. It needs to make sense, but at the same time, you can't make everything make sense. You just can't. Like we can't fucking type. None of us can fucking type. We can't make sense of this shit. We're trying like hell, but I'm pretty okay with us where we are. Like we're all moving in a direction towards organization, which is, we're all working towards it, and some of us are ripping it to shreds, but some of us are narrowing it down, right? We're all working together as basically a little community working as a team, and it's coming pretty well. I'd really like to think that bias training isn't really necessary, and the people that are suggesting that, I keep saying it, maybe it'll come true.
Yeah, yeah.
But I don't really believe that. Making sense of everything is in itself nonsensical, though. If you think you've got everything figured out, you're wrong, right? So you have to allow for the nonsensical in order to upend your blocks that are unstable and allow you to build better blocks. It's just all part of it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, but
So
that's not animalistic. I'm saying that all mentally. I'm not
Yeah, yeah, no,
that, you
totally.
know.
I can see that. Do you say that you focus more on the past, present, or future? Where does your attention usually lie?
You know what? I was had that exact question today in my head and could not figure it out. I'm not in the fucking future. I have a few snapshots of the future. I know that I want to walk my daughter down the aisle. Great. That's one snapshot from the future. I know I want to be rocking on the porch with my wife in a rocking chair when I'm 80. Like I have these sort of general overlies. Yeah, that's 80 years down the road, sure. But I'm never thinking about that. I'm not in my head about the future. I'm not in my head with the present. Clearly, I can't see what's going on around me. And I'm also not in the fucking past. I can't remember anything. I don't remember what fucking happened. So for me to go into the past and try to dig shit up, I did it today. I was up there trying to pull up my tidal waves. I told you I had that 2-page list there, but I had to work my ass off to get it. And it's mostly just basically the most traumatizing things in my life have stuck, right? So I'm able to go back and pick those up because that's what everybody can do. That's what the human body is designed to do. It has that part of the brain that latches onto that shit. So I have those. That's all I can remember. I remember this terrible thing that happened, this terrible thing that happened, and that's it. And then for me to live in the past is just, that's probably what it is. I'm probably glass lizard supposed to be living in the past, but can't because my functions aren't lined up right. So I'm trying to do it and I can't. But that's not. I'm not really saying that's just a joke. Really. But like the people who've been typing my video have been calling me SE sort of present. They say me see me saying a lot of things, and I do that. That's something I do. I'll drive down the road. That's a sign. That's Joe's Crab Shack. I'll just name shit that's around me. Just looking at things. But I mean, I never typed myself as C, mostly from that feminine sensory issue and the whole not being present thing. So it's God damn, I wish I knew the answer to that question, man. I appear to be in my head outside of time just because you go into that hypnotic zone. This is outside of time. It's just working on this puzzle. It has nothing to do with time. I'm not looking at the time. I'm not looking past, present, or future. And my wife gets so mad at me. Right? I mean, examples. I'm not looking at the future because I'm not planning for the student to come through the door. I'm not looking at the future because I don't know instinct. I don't have any sort of sense of time where how long is it until I have to go pick my kid up. I've got all those alarms set. In my video, I was just watching it. It goes off like 3 times during that's how many alarms I have set so that I can pull myself out of my head into the present. Talking about the future, I don't work to make my business so much. I don't have like this. I'll plan for my business to have sort of an avenue to go down. So I had this plan to get to the 40 students, but now I'm there, and now I'm not as planning for what to do next. I have ideas, but I'm not going there. I'm not like committing to any of those ideas right now. And that's part of the reason I'm in OPS still. I'm hoping to use this as a springboard into my future, which is very self-help side, because I'm sort of stuck on, and I'm stuck on what I'm going to do next with my life, which is, and it might be outside of OPS because that deals more with growing, which is that fifth human need, from Tony Robbins. But either way, I'm not in the present because I'm just in my head. I'm not in the past because I can't remember anything. Like, I wish I could help you.
No, it's all good. I'm curious. So, which philosophy do you subscribe to more? If it works, then you can be happy, or if you're happy, then it works.
Oh, I don't know. I think I would have to look
Okay.
I would have to look objectively at myself somehow. Subjectively, they're both good. I'm aiming like pre-OPS, I'm pre all of this. My general objective was to be happy. But was I happy? Of course not, because happy is a movable object. And I didn't know that until I went to counseling and she explained it to me. If you aim for happy, you're going to miss because by the time you get there, happiness is moved. And then if you try to make everything work, I mean, really, I would probably go there first. Having just said that I was trying to be happy my whole life, I would probably say that my aim is that very lazy human selfish need to be lazy. The aim is to just make everything automated and then be able to just sit on the couch. Everything's taken care of itself. Very, very sleep animal sort of thing, where it's that would be optimal, but then you would die. So it's like the aim. It's the thing where if everything's working, it's still not working. If you're happy, you're not happy tomorrow because happiness moved. Both of them seem to be elusive, and I don't know which one comes first. I can't. I just can't answer that question. I don't even know.
Yeah, no, it's all good. I understand. So would you say that you have a hard time giving 50% of your energy to something, or is it more of like 0 or 100%? Like, do you have a hard time kind of pacing yourself?
That's an interesting question. I've never had that one before. I would say 0 to 100, 0 or 100. What happens is I'll gear up. So let's say my wife, who makes all the plans for the weekend and makes like 3 to 4 plans every weekend, we have things going on. I have to be aware of that days ahead of time. And then in that morning time when I'm waking up, I have to already know what's going to happen. And be preparing for it mentally. And a lot of it has to do with just sweating, being outside, getting sunburnt. These concepts of getting outside that I just hate, and preparing to just submit to the spray, the sunblock, the bug sprays, which I also hate. Just submitting to those, which takes 5 seconds, and you're done. And then you just go outside and have a fun day. If I can gear up for that, I can be having fun for 3 straight days and not have a problem with it. But if you throw some outside birthday party at me out of the blue, you're gonna have to pull me along grumbling and not wanting to do it. I'm gonna fight you.
No, that's cool.
I don't know if I answered your question, probably, but 0 most of the time. Like I want to just lay down and do nothing most of the time. But I also don't want to spend my whole life on the couch. And I have this weird. If I'm out there, I'm engaging. Like if I see a stranger walking on the sidewalk, I'm saying hi to that stranger. And Shannon and Dave have talked about this because Dave does that. Dave's all introverted, and then he sees a stranger. He's like, "Hey, how's it going, neighbor?" or whatever. And like that's me. I'm engaging these people I don't know. I'm talking to them. I'm blasting at them because I'm. Goddamn, I teach everybody that I see, and I'm just I'm connecting with these people while I'm out there. But I had to work my ass off to get out of that door. I had to prepare for it. So anyway,
Yeah. Okay. Probably just you have a time for just a couple more minutes, couple more questions.
Yeah, until the alarm goes off, I'm good. Even
Okay.
past the alarm's not a hard alarm. I can go past.
Okay, maybe like 10 minutes then or something.
Yeah.
Okay, so would you say that you expend a lot of energy to get like the best information, or you sacrifice kind of information to get to preserve more energy for yourself? Like, what is your kind of thoughts around that?
Information is king. I've talked about it in the past where I may wake up in the middle of the night exhausted and think, oh, I could watch that video I wanted to watch. And just just start watching a video with information in it, or reading a book. I'm definitely a guy who will end up reading, if it's a book I like, then I'll end up reading it till 3 or 4 a.m. Before allowing myself to fall asleep. Like the information is king.
Good. Okay, so if you're trying to get new information, are you kind of more apt to watch a video or read a book or something first, and then maybe ask people questions, or do you go to people first before just taking the information on your own?
People are just as legitimate a source of consume for me as video, and I would say I use all of those equally in the sense that I hired Rosalie the teacher to consume from her. I use my wife to consume basically any maintenance on the house, but I also will go to YouTube. I'll go to books. Books I would say less, but the thing is, I think that's a current cultural evolution where everything's on Audible now, and I'm listening to books more than reading them, and I read by listening more still. I do still read the books just by listening, and I wouldn't say that it's necessarily because I'm dominant listening. It's just because of that thing where you can do the dishes and listen to a book at the same time. It's a practical application. Like I said, I read that Wheel of Time series 5 times, and you're talking about years of commitment to that.
Yeah.
Like, I've read a shit ton of books. I watched a shit ton of videos. I asked a shit ton of questions from people. I'm not going to be helpful on this question. Sorry.
No, no, no. It's really good. All right. Um. Hmm. So, how do you deal with deadlines? Like, what are the months, days, weeks leading up to a deadline look like for you?
Procrastinate till the last minute and then cram. I had it down to a science in college. The last 2 days, the 2 days before I would do the review sheet, and then the day before I would memorize the review sheet. And from Bible quizzing has been very influential on me. Ironically, I'm pretty much atheist right now, but that skill has been one of the most important skills of my life, where I can just take massive amounts of information and memorize them in a way where, yeah, I'll forget. Like, you'll ask me, hey, what verse was that? And I'll be like, oh shit, I can't remember right now. But it's still there, and I can pull it up in a few minutes, or I can pull it up tomorrow, and I can look it up if I need to, but I know where it is. There's your line. I can. That skill has allowed me to memorize anything that I need, including piano repertoire, um, piano techniques, the any sort of material where I need to learn information. I have the skill set to just memorize it. But please repeat the question.
uh, I don't remember.
No.
I don't remember what.
Shit.
I don't.
Information.
Yeah.
We did. It was the one after information versus.
Yeah, honestly, I don't even remember where I was. Sorry about that. Do you have time for one more question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so what would you say is like your superpower, and then what would you say is like your greatest weaknesses, if you were to answer that?
I mean, I think about this because I see my wife's superpower, and I see her using it effectively. Um, and then I see myself, and I can't see a superpower. I would have to go with willpower, in the sense that if I do need to do something, I can get that shit done. Doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter. Like, if I was locked on to being an operator, I have zero doubt in my mind that I would be an operator in 10 years. Like, I would do the 10 years. I would do the 10,000 hours. I would do the bias training. I would do whatever the fuck. And they would not be able to make me quit. Like, willpower is probably the only thing I have going for me, because it has to push through all those fucking glass ceilings. Yeah, that's it.
Weaknesses?
Weaknesses, every other damn thing. Memory, being present, planning for the future, remembering the past, being social. While I say I can be good at it, I can. But it's uncontrollable. Whenever I'm not being good at it, I can't just flip the switch and be good at it all of a sudden. Like, if I'm in a situation where I just don't fit that social situation, I can read the situation, but then I can't seem to perform where I need to. So I would have to list social under there. And then I would say I'm a good teacher, to go back to strengths. But I had to make myself into a good teacher. And I have blind spots in my teaching for sure. But then back to weaknesses. I mean, the most dangerous one seems to be paying attention to the present, because you can leave the gas on the stove on and blow the house up. You can not see the car in your blind spot and kill everybody in the car. You can just destroy your entire life by not being present in half a second. And it's one that I'm aware, I'm focused on. Like, I'm paying attention, I'm watching you, god damn it. But I'm also not present.
Yeah. Cool, man. I think that's about it. So I'm just gonna